Let's take an unfiltered look at WorkBenchCon. Over the last weekend, I was in Atlanta for Workbench Conference. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you will be like, what the heck is that? Workbench Conference is basically a woodworking-based conference for content creators, DIYers, furniture builders, woodworking influencers. Anybody that fits under this huge umbrella is welcome at WorkBenchCon. I have been there for 2 years now, and I decided that I would share my thoughts with you on the whole conference. I have several topics, a lot of note cards here, as well as some questions that some people have sent me that haven't had the opportunity to go, and they want to know. If at the end of this I don't answer your questions, just send me a message, drop a note in the comments, find me on my social medias and ask me, and I will answer it to the best of my ability. Now, I will warn you, I'm a bit opinionated. Probably most of you are. And I had a bunch of people tell me that they were really looking forward to my opinions on WorkBenchCon. So with that, here we go. Well, WorkBenchCon is stemmed off of the Haven Conference, which is a DIY home decor bloggers conference, excuse me. And I actually went to that conference in 2017. And while I was at that conference, there in my swag bag, there was an advertisement for WorkBenchCon. And I kid you not, keep in mind that Haven is probably 98% women. In this bag, they put a card advertising Workbench Conference as the Masculine DIYers Conference. Why you would put that in a bag at a conference full of women, I don't know. The only thing that I can come up with is that the same people that put on the Haven Conference put on the Workbench Conference. And the Haven Conference is going on for like at least a decade now. So the first year for Workbench Conference, I did not go. Haven left a very bad taste in my mouth, and I wanted nothing to do with any of that. And I wasn't really sure what this masculine conference thing was all about. So when the conference came about, I had a bunch of friends go, and I really wished I was there. It looked like it was a ton of fun. And so I made plans to go the next year, which would have been 2019, last year's conference. Y'all, I hated it. The conference was so bad. I loved meeting everybody, but everything else was so bad. And I'll talk about that if I can actually get to my notes and shut up now. So let's do that. So like I said, they talked about Workbench being an offshoot of Haven, and it was for the Masculine DIYers Conference. Well, at the opening ceremonies for this conference this year, 2020, the creator of the conference, the person who runs the coordination company, Kristen Stockdale, she got up on stage and relayed that story of how Workbench stemmed from Haven and said, it's the conference for men. Keep in mind, like maybe not half the room was female, but there was a load of female woodworkers, content creators, and very, excuse my language, badass content creators in that room that were female. And it was kind of very alienating, even to some of the men. They're like, whoa. And she made no qualms about her statement. She didn't try to fix it or amend it or saying that this is a maker's conference. She just left it as it's a conference for men. So there's that one. Like I said earlier, it's in Atlanta, and it's been in Atlanta every year. There was talk of moving it this year, but they never did that, and I'm guessing that it'll probably always stay in Atlanta because the biggest sponsor is Home Depot, and Home Depot is based in Atlanta. So 2019, I believe it was downtown Atlanta where they held it, and the hotel was several blocks, like at least a half-mile walk from the convention center, downtown Atlanta. Some pretty unsavory characters down there. There was no signage how to get there, and that was if you walked outside. You could walk most of the way inside, but you had to do skywalks from hotel to hotel to a little shopping mall, and it was very confusing trying to weave through this. You had to go up and down different floors, escalators, different hallways, and there was no signage in there. Nobody in there directing us through the inside way. And keep in mind, February in Georgia is rainy and cold. So that was a pretty big letdown, and you had to plan at least probably 15-20 minutes to your walk to and from the hotel to the conference center. There weren't very many food options or entertainment options in that area that were that you could easily walk to, which is a big downfall because most of these people are flying in and they don't have rental cars, and there's not enough people there, and Ubers get expensive. So that was a huge downfall. The only bright side is that little mall that you walk through had a bunch of restaurants in it, like fast food style restaurants, and that'll come into play later. This year, I was very pleased to see that the hotel and the conference center were all in one place, and you never had to go outside to get there, and it was maybe a 5-minute walk between your hotel room and the conference center. But yeah, they did much better on that. The location was in the Cobb Galleria area, and it was very close to the Atlanta Battery, where there's a ton of restaurants there. There was a bunch of places within walking distance, a shopping mall, all the food stuff. There was some night entertainment, but most of the people stayed in the lobby because there was a bar in the lobby, and it spilled out into this big open atrium, and that's where a lot of people hung out after they got something to eat. Oh, and the hotel and conference center this time was roughly 40 minutes from the airport, so not awful, not great, but I understand that not everything can be right near the airport. It's way too high, just quite honestly. Obviously, I didn't go the first year, and I heard the tickets were like $180 the first year. The second year, tickets were, I believe, $290 a piece plus some fees and taxes. So I bought 2 tickets. I bought one for me, and I bought one for my shop assistant, which you can follow him online at 7MD Shop Ass. He loves that name. Anyway, so I bought 2 tickets for us to go. So the total cost for the tickets just to the conference was $614.34. The hotel that they got us a block at was $129 a night plus $22 tax. I booked 3 nights at that hotel. Now when I got there, for some reason unknown to me, they comped 1 night. So I actually only paid 2 nights, which was $311.60. Not going to complain about that. And then the airfare to get there. So for 2 tickets from Oklahoma to Atlanta cost $795.78, plus a $52 cancellation insurance deal. So my total cost for 2 people to go to WorkBenchCon was $1,721.70. That's a lot of money for a lot of these people who are part-time woodworkers, content creators, very small accounts. Now, if I'd only paid for 1 person, which many people do, with the 1 ticket, the 1 airfare ticket, and the hotel staying the same, that's still $990.66. That's still a huge chunk of change. Now, if I had shared my room with somebody else and split the cost, another attendee, that would have been fine. That would have helped it, but it's still a very expensive conference. So how's that compared to this year's numbers? Well, they jacked up the price again. The early bird tickets this year were the same price as the last minute tickets last year. So it was $400 per person to go to this conference. So again, I bought 2 tickets for a total of $805.23. The hotel this time was more expensive. It was $159 a night plus $30 tax a night. And I bought 4 nights this time. Last year I went up on Thursday, or I flew in on Thursday, But this year I flew in on Wednesday. So that's adding essentially 2 extra nights from what I paid last year. The airfare was actually cheaper this time at $561.20 for 2 people, plus a $38 cancellation fee. Oh, I don't think I gave you the total for the hotel. The total for the hotel this year was $756.40. Huge chunk of change. So my total for 2 people to attend the 2020 Workbench Conference was $2,122.83. Now, had I done the same as, or had I only bought 1 ticket, still 1 room, 1 conference ticket, 1 airfare ticket, it was still $1,420.62. That is a huge chunk of change for most people. And it's not doable. The conference this is basically a 2-day conference plus 2 hours on a 3rd day. It's ridiculous, and the cost needs to come down. Okay, so this is everybody's favorite part and what they were looking forward to most, and the thing that I'm probably most vocal about, because if you can't get this right, what else can you get right? And that's the food. I love food. I love food so much, in fact, I have a food blog. But anyway, we'll get to that another day. So, last year's food was absolutely atrocious. I've blocked half of it out. The first morning we got there, because they serve us breakfast and lunch and a snack in the afternoon. And on the Friday of the Workbench Conference, they have little snacks during a social thing that they have. I don't know. It's weird. But anyway, the breakfast the first day was oatmeal, and only oatmeal. There was nothing else to go with it. So the second day I skipped breakfast and I got something at Chick-fil-A on the way in that little mall that I told you about. They made accommodations for vegetarians, which I don't have any problems with that. But give the meat eaters some meat. And they didn't really want to do that. So one day they advertised it as either a Frito chili pie bar or a walking taco bar. I can't remember for sure, but it was neither. It's nothing that this Oklahoman has ever seen for a walking taco or Frito chili pie. I go up there and it's got vegetarian chili, which is basically just some sort of vegetable broth and a bunch of tomatoes. And next to it, if you would like a meat version, is some sort of meat product. I have no idea what it was. All the little bits were the same shape and they were gray, and it just said meat, I'm pretty sure. It was the weirdest thing, and it was not good. And if you didn't want that, your other option that day was to go get a salad with shrimp on it. Like, how does that even go together? It was so messed up. Most of the time we went and ate somewhere else because the food was that bad. This year, the food was better, not by much. Let's see, the first morning's breakfast. Well, wait a second. At the welcome party registration evening on Thursday night, they did provide us some food. It was weird. There was meat, but it wasn't good. Had like these little barbecue sliders, and it was the strangest tasting barbecue sauce I've ever had. Bacon wrapped scallops. I don't eat seafood, so I didn't touch that. Pecan chicken and pimento cheese deviled eggs. Whatever. It was edible, most of it, but it was weird. For breakfast the next morning, it was fruit, pastries, an egg biscuit. Like, it was the driest biscuit in the world, and this egg puck thing. There was no meat to be found. Oh, and some yogurt with fruit on it, which I learned at the Haven conference. You do not eat the yogurt. It's the worst yogurt in the world. So for lunch, both days, we had sandwiches, cold sandwiches. They couldn't even give us a hot food option. But it was edible, so I didn't mess with going anywhere else. And then towards the end of the conference, they didn't even have a snack for us anymore. They had another social event the Friday night, and they didn't even have enough food for everybody in attendance. And it was the same number of people that they fed during the day. So I don't know what was up with that. But yeah, the food at this thing is not worth it. They offer a lot of classes, and I should have written in my notes how many classes they actually offer, but the number of classes that you can take throughout the entirety of the conference is 6. So you're paying, what did I say this time, $2,000 for 2 people, or well, $1,500 for 1 person, and you're only getting 6 classes, each of them about an hour in length. That doesn't seem worth it or equitable. And most of the classes, I feel that you could find that information online. Like somebody somewhere has covered that in a YouTube video, a blog, a little blurb on Instagram or Facebook. You can pay to learn it on there. I feel that you can get most of the information somewhere else. And I felt that a lot of the information was like, I'm a huge account. This is what worked for me. Maybe it could work for you. There were 2 classes there that I really liked, one of which was completely different from anything I do, some interactive videos, but it was very, very interesting, and the instructor was very well versed in his material, and he made it really fun. The other class was pointed specifically at you and told you this is what you do to achieve all this, and it was towards branding and marketing, and I love that class, and I still need to email that guy and get his slides because it was so full of information. So even with all that complaining, there is still something to be learned from each class. And I mean, obviously you just sit there, you're going to pick up something that you didn't know before, something that you can utilize. And I did that in all those classes. And then some of it, it's just like you're drinking from a fire hose. You've got too much information coming at you at once. And it's really hard to comprehend all of that, but you don't really, I mean, you can take notes, but they move so fast because you only have an hour to get all of that information, and not all of those slides are readily available to everybody else. This was also a huge, huge pet peeve of mine, particularly in 2019. They did better in 2020 this year. This year I noticed that there were quite a few inconsistencies on what times classes and events were between what was on the Workbench website, what was on the app they utilized that you could use on your phone real easy to figure out what classes you're on, and what was on the printed book that they gave you at registration. It seems to me that that should all be in line, but maybe that's just me. They have a severe lack of timely information on their website. Like, I am a consumer of information. If I want to know something, I run that Google machine so fast to find what I need. And I'm a whiz at the Google machine. So the fact that I can't go on their website and find out all of this information is very, very frustrating. And one of the complaints I remember seeing from a lot of people this year was that they didn't even have who's speaking or a course list whenever it was time to buy tickets, because you buy tickets in roughly September, October, the year before the conference. But they don't even have a list of who's speaking or what classes are going to be offered. I mean, and the tickets are non-refundable once you buy them. Now you can sell them to somebody else and pay a $20 transfer fee to get their name on the ticket, but you cannot have your ticket refunded once you buy it. So if you buy it before the class list is out and you don't know, once the class list does come out and you're like, those classes don't interest me, or I took all those classes last year, because some of the classes do repeat from year to year, then what do you do? In fact, the schedule wasn't finalized online until a couple weeks before the conference, because I remember I looked and they had the Friday schedule, and then when you got to Saturday, it said, it's very similar to Friday. Like, what the heck? Like, some of these classes are only offered one time, or they're at different times and you're trying to figure that out, and it was bad. Another downside that I see is there's too much downtime in between classes. So the first class of the day is at 10 a.m. You have breakfast before that, which is a long time, which is fine by me because I like to sleep in. But the class ends at roughly 11 o'clock and you have lunch from 11 to 1. That's 2 hours. And then from 1 to 2:30ish is your second class. But from 2:30 to 4 is more downtime. That's the snack hour. And then from 4 to 5 is your last class. And then you go from there. So that's a lot of downtime that's going on that we could put in another class. We could shorten the day. We could spend that last hour as time getting to talk with the brands. It just seems like it's too much downtime, and that could be remedied. Well, and I won't even discuss last year. I have that in my notes, but that's not even pertinent anymore because they did fix a lot of those problems. But these people have been putting on conferences for over a decade. And I understand that Workbench is new. You know, it's only 3 years old. But with that much knowledge about how this works, because all the basics are still the same. It's just different topics, different brands, different instructors. But all the basics are still the same. And they should be a lot more efficient at working these. That was supposed to go like way high. They did have a vendor show of sorts. There were quite a few brands there, and they had them all around the outside of the big meeting area, which is where we had our dinners and the opening ceremonies, closing ceremonies, and everything. However, on one side, they had them all open, lined up, single file, we'll say. But on the other side, they had them running down a very small section of a double row, and there were so many. I mean, we're talking 300-400 people spread amongst like 8 booths, all double stacked. That's a lot of people, and you can't get in there and you can't talk to anybody. And this is a content creator, social media influencer conference, so everybody's in there trying to give the very same spiel to all of these people saying, hey, sponsor me, give me stuff. And then you have, because we all know those brands have stuff to give away. And so you have all those people there, and I was one of them. I'm not complaining about everybody else, but you have all those people getting in there trying to get the free items to take home. And it's just a big convoluted mess, and I think it could be organized better. I would also like to see a lot more brands there. Like, you know, we're not as niche of a market as the Haven Conference. You know, woodworking is very, very broad topic. You know, the type of woodworking I do is not the same type of woodworking that somebody else does. Somebody else does. A lot of my friends on social media and Instagram, they do something completely different than I do, and that's fine. But that just goes to show how broad of a topic this is. So let's get a variety of brands in there. Now, if you're curious of what brands were actually there, the ones that I can remember were Rust-Oleum, Wall Control, Firm Grip Gloves, Woodcraft, Craig, SketchUp, Total Boat, Kutzall, Fuji Spray, Mag Switch, Rockler, Isotunes, Pony Jorgensen, and of course the Home Depot. I know I'm missing some. I didn't get all the names from all of them. There was a welding, ESOB Welding was there. But I mean, I think a lot could be done to better that program as well. Now, since we're talking about brands, something that comes up a lot is getting them to work with you. And so I'll get messages for a couple of years, you know, people say, well, I don't deserve to be there because I've got a small account. And relatively, I have a small account in the grand scheme of things. And a term that I learned last year was micro-influencer, which is me. I'm a micro-influencer, and I'm sure most of you are considered micro-influencers. And so if you're asking, well, what is that? A micro-influencer is somebody, obviously with social media accounts, that has between basically 1,000 and 100,000 followers. That's a wide range. Would I love to have 100,000 followers? You bet, but I don't. but we're all micro influencers. We're considered experts or are very knowledgeable in a specific niche area, which is woodworking, whatever type of woodworking you do. We have the ability to connect on a deeper level with our followers because we have more interaction with them. We're more accessible to them. They feel more comfortable sending us a message, and we're more likely to see it than, you know, somebody with a 20 million follower account. We have a greater engagement with our followers simply because we're more accessible and we can respond to their messages more readily than a larger account. We can be considered more relatable and trustworthy because of our interactions, engagement with our followers. And for the brands, we're more affordable because we don't have the clout to demand these high paydays, you know? So if you think that you don't fit in with all of this stuff, there is a place for you. If you want to work with a brand, reach out to them. Contact their brand ambassador manager, their influencer manager, give them your spiel, market yourself, sell yourself to them and what you can do for them. And don't just reach out to every brand that's out there. Reach out with the ones that you truly want to work with, and you're more likely to get something back. But if you expect them to just notice you out of the blue because of your work, that's not how this is going to end up. You have to sell yourself. You have to put yourself out there. We are past the days of being noticed only for our work, because I've come across a lot of very, very fine craftsmen on Instagram with very low followings, and their work is outstanding, and they just don't have the high following. I can't explain it. When I got on Instagram, this is kind of a tangent, but we'll go here anyway. When I got on Instagram, it was so much easier to interact with everybody and make the friendships and keep up with what everybody was doing to help continue those genuine connections. But there wasn't all the algorithms that there are now. So it's much, much harder, which means you're going to have to work a whole lot harder. So anyway, off that soapbox, micro influencers, you are one. My most favorite part of both of these conferences that I went to is meeting all the people. Like, I feel like I know these people because I've spoken with them, sent them messages, and gone back and forth with them, been in Instagram groups with them. They are my friends, but I've never met them in person. So to say, hey, yeah, my internet friend, it's kind of weird. But now I can actually call them my friend, my real life friend, because I met them in person at these conferences. And that is so fun. It's like a class reunion, but you like most of the people there. I mean, there's probably going to be at least one person there you don't like and you don't want to be around. But it's like a class reunion, you know, and getting to see everybody, and it's so fun, and you already know everything about them, and then you get to see the people that you follow and admire, and just getting that face-to-face time with is incredible. And then I got to tell you, it's a very surreal experience when someone comes up to you and says, hey, I've been following you for so long. I love that you did this or this, and I'm just so excited to meet you. And it's like, I'm just a nobody. You know, I'm just out here doing my thing. And for someone to come up to me and say that, it's crazy. But, you know, most of these people out here are just the real deal, Joe Blow, doing their thing and posting it, and you feel that same way about them. So it's very, very cool to get to meet up with all of these people. So the meetups with the friends are very, very worth it in whatever regard you can do that. Whether it's at a conference, an organized maker meetup, whatever. Go meet your friends. Go meet your idols. I should have had something else to say, but I didn't. Anyway, as far as the meetups go for the Workbench Conference, there are a couple different types of meetups. They have the sponsored ones within the conference, there's a lot going on, and it's very hard to catch up with everybody. But these are the ones that are within the conference center. You have to have a ticket to get in, or the name badge to get in. And then they have the unsponsored ones. Some people will do one that's set up like in the lobby of the hotel. Like, from this time to this time, we're going to do giveaways and all that stuff. And then you have the very, very informal ones, which is just you go down to the lobby and see what's up. You go out to dinner with some of the people that you've met, go on outings. It's just, you're just getting together and having fun. I think that was all I had on meetups. One thing that drives me insane is that the Workbench Conference has no option for people who bring their spouses or significant others. I mean, a lot of the people are married or in relationships that attend this, and they would like to bring their significant other. I mean, I do. I bring shop assistant with me. And while he knows this business and he's a part of it now, he's not in the content creation and influencer portion of it. And so does he need a full ticket? I want him to meet all these people that I talk about online, so we're all friends now. But they have no option for that outside of buying a full ticket, which is why my cost each year is so high. And if they just did like $100 spouse ticket, they could change the color of the badge, make it very clear that this is not a full ticket, it's just a spouse ticket. And you know, they're only allowed at the social gatherings, like basically in the room where all the food is and the brands are. They don't get to go to any of the classes. I think that would be great. And it'd make a lot of people very happy, because I know some people that brought their spouses and they had to sit in the room or go find whatever else they were doing for an entire day because they could not be involved. And I just don't think that's right. So, I mean, what's $100? You know, to cover the crappy food that they have. Let's do it, Workbench. So one of the questions I got was, what's the interaction like with companies when it comes to smaller accounts? Well, I discussed the micro influencers, and brands are very interested in micro influencers. It's crazy. It's so hot right now, even though you may have never heard of the term. Like, it was completely foreign to me last year. But they want the micro influencers because of the reach that the genuine reach that you can get with your followers. So what they're looking for is a persona behind the pictures, the little squares on Facebook or Instagram. I mean, you don't have to be the hippest, TikTokist, whatever out there, but just be you and be genuine and don't hide behind your account. Put yourself out there. They like that. They want to see that. And they want to see that your opinions and beliefs line up with what their company espouses. But they very much want to work with these smaller accounts, the micro influencers, if you will. The next question, is it worth it? I'll address that in my last little bit. And then, who is Workbench geared toward? And what if you're just looking to connect aside from business? As far as who is Workbench geared toward, I feel that the organizers want it to be an elite woodworking conference. I've heard the organizer, Kristen Stockdale, in a podcast where she said that she intentionally prices the conference high so that the fanboy types don't buy up all the tickets in hopes of meeting, you know, their favorite woodworker. Well, I got news for you. If somebody wants to meet their favorite woodworker that badly, they will spend whatever it takes to get to where they are. There's no need to punish everybody else because of this inflated idea of what this conference is. In my opinion, this conference is for the beginning to mid-size woodworking, content creation influencer. Whatever you want your business to be, whether you're making product to sell, you're taking custom orders, or you're simply doing the content creation, I believe if you're a beginner to mid-range, you know, this conference is for you. Now, you will see the bigger accounts there, like the Izzy Swans, Jimmy DeRestas, April Wilkersons, and Annabelle Trades. You'll see all of those people there, and I don't know if they're necessarily coming, because some of them are presenting. So there's that. I don't know if they're necessarily coming to learn, if they're just coming there to socialize. I honestly have no idea, and I'm not going to speculate about that. But they are there, and those I consider big people in this realm. So the second part of this is, what if you're just looking to connect aside from business? This is hard for me to answer because the biggest push for me to go back this year was to see all the people and hang out, to socialize. But that was a lot of money to spend. So if you're just wanting to socialize and do everything outside of business stuff, you're going to have to do that at a significant price. So it's, are you willing to do that? The next question, is it worth going if you have a small following and are just a hobby woodworker? Well, I kind of just answered that, and I'm going to address that again here in a second. I consider myself a hobby woodworker. I don't really get into the sponsor. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I'll just throw that out there. But I don't really get into the sponsorship, influencer stuff. If I share a product, it's because I genuinely use that product and I like that product and I want you to know about it. I don't get kickbacks from it. So this is still a hobby for me. It's a part-time gig. I do make projects and sell them for other people. And I'm still what I consider a small account. And I've been twice. So, and I've gained stuff both times. So I believe, yes, if you are a hobby woodworker and you have a small following, it could be worth it to you depending on what you want to achieve with your business. And I tell you what, in the 2 years I've been, not once has anybody ever asked me, or have I ever heard anyone ask someone else, how many followers do you have? Nobody cares if you're a big account or a little account. If you have 300 people or if you have 100,000 people following you. That's not important there. It's just getting to be there with everybody, in my opinion. Another question, is it overwhelming meeting all of the faces behind the Instagram at the same time? Kinda, yeah. I am very, very introverted, so it's difficult for me to just put myself out there and go up to someone and say, hey, I want to talk to you. I'm very comfortable doing it here behind the camera, as long as no one's sitting here in the room with me watching me, because then I get apprehensive. But if you're an introvert, it's difficult. Now, the people that I've established a relationship with online, those were a lot easier. The people that I met last year at Workbench, those were even easier to go up and talk to you and hang out with. I did meet some new people that I hadn't really connected with previously at Workbench, and those were some of the people that I hung out with most. It was so fun. So I think if you're a social butterfly, it's a little bit easier. But it was a bit difficult for me. And then it just seemed like this year, there were a lot of people that I didn't recognize this year. Like, it seemed like a whole new crop, and I may be the only one who feels this, but it seems like whenever you start on Instagram, you have like your class, everybody that starts on Instagram at the same time, and they're coming up together, and then new people come in, and there's people that have been here long before you, and it's just, that's kind of the feeling that I get. I don't know if anybody else has that. I may be crazy. Don't tell me if I am. But it seemed like there was a whole new crop of people this year outside of my circle, and I didn't recognize a lot of them. And I didn't get the opportunity this year to talk to a lot of the people that I did recognize, whether I've interacted with them before or I've just followed them and I really wanted to meet them, because it just seemed like everybody was really, really busy and we were short on time, despite all of the downtime between classes. I don't know, it was very weird. So there were a lot of people this year that I didn't get to meet, which I kind of regret a little bit. And then the last question, is it worth the money for someone who is starting out? I've kind of addressed that a little bit already, and I'm getting ready to for the next thing, so I'll hold off on it, answering that one specifically. So, one question that comes up a lot is, should I go? And I can give you my personal opinions of what I've experienced at the conferences, but ultimately it's a personal decision for yourself. Is the money worth it for you? Do you think that you're going to get a good return on your investment by going? And a lot of that depends on, what do you want to achieve with your business? Do you just want to be a hobby woodworker who tinkers in the shop and sells a few items? Do you want to be a woodworking influencer, working with all of these brands and meeting all of their demands? Do you want to be a content creator? Because whether you want to be a content creator but you don't necessarily want to work with all the brands, it can still be beneficial for you. Because some years, this is why we need to have the class list ahead of time. Last year's Workbench focused a lot on dealing with Instagram and getting your numbers up, and YouTube and making videos, and there just weren't as many classes like that this year. It was more working with brands this year. So there's always a shift in what the topics are going to be, but like I said, it depends on what you want to accomplish with your business. What do you hope to gain from this conference? Are you wanting to gain the knowledge? Are you wanting to make contacts with sponsors? Or are you just wanting to meet everybody? And then you have to look at it, is the cost investment worth it? I broke down my cost to you. There are ways to make the cost cheaper, going by yourself, not buying a second ticket, driving over flying, but there's a swap out and time is money. Staying at a nearby hotel that may be cheaper. There's all kinds of give and take to help with the cost. If you can put on a class at Workbench, you get a free ticket. So there's that. So those are all the things for you to consider on whether or not you should go. And I can't answer that for you. I can help guide your answer, but I can't answer it for you. Now, the next question that I've been asked a lot is, will I be going back? The answer is no, I will not be going back. There is a caveat to that. If they move the conference to Dallas, which is only about 3 or 4 hours from me, and they lower the ticket price, I'm not paying $800 again to go to this conference, I'll go back. And if they move it to Dallas, but they don't lower the ticket, I'll go back to meet up with everybody. I'll host a meetup at my hotel, But for me, the cost of the conference is too high for my return on investment. And I don't think I'm gaining anything from the conference anymore. I think I've met the shelf life of the conference for myself. And this is me only for what I'm trying to accomplish with my business. So, that's all I got. I hope that I've answered your questions about the Workbench conference. And if I didn't, like I said at the very beginning, please feel free to send me a message, comment, whatever. And I will answer it to the best of my ability. But I really wanted to put this video out because I get really annoyed at all the posts that I see after Workbench about how great this conference is. I can't wait to get in the shop and hit the ground running. And they're just building this thing up is the greatest thing ever. And I didn't experience that. I experienced a very lackluster conference that has a long way to go. And maybe I'm too critical. Maybe my standards are set too high. I don't know. But I wanted to put my side out there. Nobody is paying me to talk this conference up. No, I received zero compensation while I was at that conference. I paid for every single thing there. I paid for the crappy food. I paid for the piddly swag bag. It is what it is. And I think my side needs to get out there because everybody knows not everything's as perfect and as rose-colored as all the posts out there. And my goal is to always be honest and authentic with you guys. So hopefully I achieve that. And with that, thanks for listening.